Not a highly technical talk today, more of a discussion on how widely used OSINT is, but there'll be enough rabbit hole and everything to dig into that should be pretty fun for everybody. So, I'm a private investigator. I do digital forensics for a PI firm in Columbia, South Carolina. I also do the information security community, try to do it right by doing conference talks like this. As well as co-organizing our local meetup in Columbia called COLA-Sec. I think we're learning a lot about OSINT stuff, a little bit of digital forensics. Find that at learnallthings.net, and that's my Twitter handle. Do the Twitter thing after everybody leaves. This is my co-creator for this talk. He is not here, unfortunately, but I wanted to leave this slide up here. He is a pretty standout guy in the InfoSec community, so definitely pay attention to him if you're into OSINT one bit, or even just information security in general. He's a wealth of knowledge. Unfortunately, just a few days before his brand new Sec 487 OSINT class that he wrote for SANS, he broke his foot, so he's not making the trip here. Packaged him in a human hamster bubble before his next class. That way he can stay nice and safe. All right, so typical what is OSINT slide that we have at the beginning of all these. OSINT is open source intelligence. It is basically anything that is fair game and free information on the internet. The concepts that we see there can include media, audio, video, geographic location, text for documents, bloggers, stocks, basically anything that you find on the internet, as well as off the internet. Oh my God. There are public records, court documents you can get your hands on, information at the library, signed at the front of a storefront. Basically anything that's within reach free. Considered under OSINT. Social media gets pulled a lot into that. Document you'll see it called sometimes. In general, we're just going to be using OSINT information. Now, OSINT is really data is just data until you analyze it. Basically, anybody can Google a topic, throw it in Google search or DuckDuckGo, and get a couple pages of results. That's the easy part. Finding information, there's so much of it out there that it's not really hard to go and find some info on a particular topic. The hard part is producing intelligence out of it. There's so much information online, so widely used, that can actually become a little bit of a challenge to verify things. Our era of fake news and disinformation that we see out there can definitely cause a little bit of work when you get to the analysis portion of that. Now, the professional methodology that you'll see if you're doing OSINT in the professional environment, this OSINT cycle comes up. This is more of a simplified one. But if you're doing OSINT, number one, for a reason. What are your data requirements? Why are we digging this information up to begin with? Once you have a target subject, what you're trying to find information out about, then you start the retrieval process. Dig up as much information as you can from as many sources that are in play, and start to comb through it. That's your analysis portion, and then we start creating intelligence out of that information by sifting through the good and the bad, sorting it out. You've got multiple subjects. So you're looking at Josh Huff, and there's 42 of them in the U.S. You got to start narrowing down so you can pivot into the other attached information that is accurate to your target of research. When I say pivot, we'll go through a couple of real-world examples of data pivoting here. A little what you see exercise. First, you may remember this photo from the false ballistic missile warning came across and scared the Jesus out of everybody in Hawaii. This photo popped up and everybody immediately started playing the game of, oh, these clowns have passwords, taped to their monitors, and everybody kind of started playing the game online as well. One Twitter user tried to find things that would help, what would be interesting to an attacker, what's the threat intel we can get out of this photo on the facility. There was obvious things like the camera placement and everything. as people started digging, they found like the high resolution versions of this photo on certain news websites and stuff, and they were able to actually pull the phone numbers off of those papers on the wall, showing basically chain of command at the facility, specific names and phone numbers. Even in the system tree, you can see icons for different programs the antivirus system had on them. One person even went into the books on the desktop showing college courses saying that they can see on the administration of the college students. So there was a lot of information that we kind of pulled just by playing the work we see here. Another pivoting example, this is one that popped up just in my random like local news feed of the manhunt that was going on in Aiken, South Carolina. I don't know about you, but if I get the breaking news that something's going on maybe in my backyard, I like to make sure that it's not in my backyard. So we started pulling up information to try to drill in. The reporter on the scene was given the county but not the exact location, so we started pulling into the photo a little bit as best we could. One thing I've realized during tracking live events, going into Google Maps and turn on your traffic layer in the general area, sometimes it'll cough up the traffic jam and point a better area to dig into there. So definitely use the traffic layer if you're doing the browser-based in Google Maps. It's pretty handy. Then we can start pivoting into real context. A unique signpost visible in red there, and the portion of the street sign visible in the reporter's information in yellow, as well as like a particular branch formation of the tree. I believe the photo was from like 2012. The story was from like 2016, but all the markers were there still, so you're able to pull the exact pivot from a geographic location based on objects in a photograph. So that's some examples of pivoting. We'll back up just a little bit and go back into the broader spectrum. How do people use open source intelligence? There's a lot of different uses for it. It could be as simple as parents, spouses, partners using it to check on the background of a babysitter. It doesn't have to be some high-level investigation going on. If you just need to look up, is your neighborhood safe? Do you have sexual predators in the area? There's websites for that. You can do remote location reconnaissance before you go on a vacation. Everybody pretty much has done that. On TripAdvisor, pull up a Google Street View and see, what's your hotel close to? Is there a giant biker conference going on at the same time? And then you get into the more personal side. Relationships, we're in the age of Tinder and online dating. So you can start digging in and seeing, who you might be going on a date with. What's their background? What are they into? And then from the other side of relationships, when things are going bad, you can start pulling stuff together. Being a private investigator, we get to see a lot of that side of things. The OSINT that a expecting spouse has already done on their partner before they come in for a consultation is in that they will give you the Facebook profile of everybody under the sun that might be a suspect there. So that's the personal side of OSINT that pretty much anybody can do, whether they know it's OSINT or not. Obviously, businesses will use it. You can do rival intelligence, see what your rival company may be working on. If you're hiring, you can go in and do the background stuff the same way that you can on the personal side before you hire somebody. Make sure that they're not some crazy hackers listening to stuff when they're going nuts at CarolinaCon. You can look for malicious insiders, somebody that's being negative online about their company. You may want to keep tabs on them from a security standpoint. Again, businesses are going to look at that stuff going into mergers and acquisitions, do the due diligence, investigations for fraud. If somebody's claiming insurance fraud, we definitely go and check their social media and make sure that they're not out playing, basketball on their Instagram page when they're claiming, they're getting disability checks. And then legal support, intellectual property, attorneys, we use that. You can also access public records and patents and all that kind of stuff online. So definitely a lot to do for business.
again, in the current age, including our government administration, media entities are using OSINT quite a lot. Instant reporting of events is a constant thing. Researching stories, doing fact checking. Last night when the strike got initiated on Syria, there was all sorts of reports flying in from overseas that people were claiming to figure out what was going on. That's a good and a bad thing. Both sides of that conflict are going to use that social media to sway, what's going on, who's on the good side, who's on the bad side. So again, we've got to dig into that with analysis and verification to really pull intelligence out of that. But so much of that is out there in the media that there's no lack of data for that. Law enforcement absolutely uses OSINT data. How often do you see a Crime Stoppers tool? Some idiot trying to knock over a gas station, or footage of a high-speed chase, and they're trying to find out who the driver of the vehicle is. We just recently had something going on in Colombia where somebody was pulled up in their vehicle resisting arrest, and it turned into a big media spectacle. There was literally people like a quarter mile away on the highway on stuff on Snapchat while the police were trying to defuse the situation. So there's no lack of evidence there. Law enforcement uses social media quite a bit in those things. We've even seen comment threads where the police are looking for somebody, and the suspect or one of their friends jumps on. Bob knocks over the door, and buddy gets on the way. Idiot Bob is 2 bars over on Main Street. Go get him, and next thing you know, you're getting an arrest warrant on Bob. Intelligence agencies absolutely using last night's political maneuver with the strike on Syria. People were watching what the other troops were doing with action. We keep tabs on terrorist networks, actually doing analytics events in the cyber world, as well as the real world. Basically, anything you can do to gain intel, that'll lead us into OSINT for bad, basically. You can use that for pretext and cyber attacks. Obviously, anybody that is on red team engagements are going to know about trying to dig up information for a phishing attack. We've seen Seth's examples of high profile, like the Kim Kardashian robbery. She was showing off too much jewelry and location presence, and somebody used that to pull a heist and got away with some pretty exorbitant amounts of jewelry. Again, extortion with things like the Ashley database. If you have data that's out there, maybe on dating sites or even if you can get your login tied to like escort services and things like that, so people are able to kind of pull that information to their advantage and use it against you. There's plenty of examples out there in using OSINT for bad. Try to bring it back to a more positive light. Online data that you have control of, things that you can do to kind of protect yourself and everyone. What you share online, obviously social media is a huge part of this. You can dig into those settings and try to keep your account as private or as open as you want. There's things online like reviews for restaurants, things like that. On the left there, you've got a view of Snapchat's map functionality. The way that works, basically anybody that has posted a open post with put on a heat map for you. It's very convenient to navigate. And on the right is the Facebook Live map. That one is more of a beacon. I use it enough that I've noticed a few things that I'll share here. This is an example of somebody brought us texting their location just to entertain. They're driving around. How common is it now to see somebody walking down the street like they're having a convo with themselves? They're either FaceTiming or they're broadcasting live on one of these apps. The 2 ladies in this video were just kind of driving around, talking to their friends. There were comments, coming back online. They're just having a good old time. In the about section of their profile, it says that they're located in Tampa, Florida. The dot from the previous slide shows that's where it was. You can actually overlay it and see that, yeah, the dot is present near Tampa, Florida. into the video a little bit. Audio cues, I heard the word accompanying mentioned. So I pulled up a street view and did some analysis. One of the signs I was able to track down, zoom in a little bit, is actually a pharmacy with the phone number built in. So we were able to validate that they're not actually in Tampa, Florida, but they were in Congo, Puerto Rico for that video. So little subtleties there. But again, this person is choosing to broadcast location in a way that we can detect for this purpose of entertainment. Tying your accounts together, that's something that you have control over. If you're going to generate an online persona for yourself, it could be personal, it could be for business. Again, really, those things could be for deception and object. On the left, you've got a TV reporter. They've got their network spelled right out. There's their LinkedIn, there's their Instagram, there's their Twitter. They're all in one easy spot. As an investigator, that's perfect. We love that because we can just go down the list and pull every piece of intel we can. All the information that we shared obviously came into play several months back with the Strava data that got put out. When me and Michael put this talk together, we weren't trying to get everybody to not share this information. There's definitely benefit to using this kind of thing if you're into that. Connecting with friends and doing like challenges and stuff. Probably like 8 years or more. I used to do Nike Plus like a ton. Put the sensor in my iPod, go out for a run, get the miles walk in my profile, and with my friends. Towards the end of the month, I'm getting for maybe like a 5-mile run, and as I logged in, I could see that my leg walked like 10 miles a day before, picked me up. So, you know what? Screw you, Doug. I ran for like 14 miles that night. Was I planning on it? No. The next day, it's like, what kind of idiot goes and runs 14 miles just to beat me on the challenge? I mean, like, I don't know. Kind of idiot I am, I guess. So, anyway, screw you, Doug. I won't. But the point of that is that kind of stuff can be fun. We're not saying don't have fun with that kind of technology. If you're not careful with the way Java was perfect because it was so widely used. There's millions of users on it, and it goes back many years. Micah did a decent amount of research on this portion. I'll go through it kind of quickly, but he basically they tried to strip away the data and post all these runs in the version of the heat map that you could just turn on, and obviously the map is hotter when there's more and more of the pads there. Again, in the sentiment of screw you, Doug, that they were competing. There's leaderboards out there for Strava too, so people were trying to make that route around the base perimeter to be the fastest. And then again, some of these profiles were not quite private in their settings. That particular user had photos, that's inside their home, pictures of them with their pets, and even photos of other areas that they were doing activities in that you could branch out and kind of move to where else would they be. So that was kind of the summary there. If you're not careful with the way that you use that, definitely we're able to identify some things. Probably did go through and pull a little bit of permission to that. A lot of the scrutiny that we're seeing out of the Facebook and Cambridge Analytica stuff, as well as the privacy changes out of the European GDPR stuff, it's going to start to kind of pull some of this stuff back to a point, but it's never enough to drop some hosting discoverability. All right, so again, those are things you obviously have control over. We'll touch on some data that you don't necessarily have control over here. There is all sorts of things in the vein of public record, real estate information, affiliations that you may have to other groups that post their own information via newsletters, things like that, as well as like the increase in technology on facial recognition. I know before the Cambridge Analytica stuff, Facebook was already letting you know about the facial recognition settings the first time you log in. It was like, hey, we've got this great feature. You can use it to be notified when somebody is putting pictures of you. That way you can tag yourself or not. No thank you, number one. They just are telling us about it, but if you pulled your archive of your data. That algorithm for your face data has been in there for quite some time. It's not really a new thing. They've been harvesting that for quite a while. There's articles out there like this one that talk about kind of the ghost profiles. You may not necessarily have a Facebook account after some of the outrage, but they're still kind of giving you that ghost profile. That way, if you do happen to join, or if your friend tags you and you do want to take part in that facial recognition, there's going to be a database out there for you. We're seeing more and more cities that have quite a bit of this technology as well. Religious newsletters is one thing that Michael was able to do a pretty good amount of information digging on. I'll show you a little bit more, but there's a lot of information in any organization's newsletter, all the way to like contact entries, who's sick, who's having kids. He was able to pull a Google Dork there with the file type PDF, the term newsletter, and then church, temple, synagogue, or mosque. And you can see here, he's got almost 700,000 results, which are all almost, full PDF newsletters. Once you start kicking through those guys, this group in there on the right, they've got an archive that I think went back about 10 years once you click on that directory. And then basically just archives of different data points, the prayer chain, phone numbers and email addresses for the congregation. If you go to a website like Zillow.com shown here, they're going to aggregate that as much of that as possible, put it out there as a convenience for somebody that may be looking to buy a home, get some intel on the work of the neighborhood that they're walking into. This particular example gets pretty bad though. This property was hosted by Turner Properties, which is actually a rental company. They have a YouTube channel for those kind of properties with videos like this. This is about a 7-minute tour of that particular house, going all the way around the yard, to the back doors, the side doors, and then they go into the property and show you, into the room. That photo on the bottom right is the front door, and the panel on the right-hand side is the alarm panel. You might not necessarily want somebody to know the location of in your home. Once I found that kind of information, you're actually able to do street view exploration, and there's houses with the same floor plan in your neighborhood. Interesting folks in here. There is a lot of tracking sites out there on track a train, planes, boats, satellites, much more. I think I found the UFO sightings tracker. Somebody was following the gritters out of Ireland that dropped all the salt on the highways, and they have like some crazy names like Gritalica and Gritty Bang Bang and stuff like that. So if people were putting those out there, you could see the locations of the salt trucks over in Europe. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff out there that makes hosting fun. The most, I think, useful ones from a general standpoint are some of the flight tracking ones. You can see if your flights are on time. I was able to kind of wave at that plane as it's mid-route, going from Washington to Orlando, coming across Columbia there. You can also see interesting things like holding patterns. If you got planes that are just kind of circling your city, might be cause for alarm. You kind of look it up and realize that these guys are all in a holding pattern while that storm front passes through, because they're not trying to land at the airport with a storm over it. And then again, last night with the Syria strike, people were watching on flight radar. This is like a Russian military jet that pulled a Huey during the amount of some of the strikes. So obviously people are going to pay attention to that kind of intelligence too. And the Marine tracker ones can key into some of that military stuff too. There was some unique tracking going on last night for sure. Another interesting one is the amount of remote traffic cameras in the major cities. This one was Atlanta. Obvious use case there is to avoid the terrible traffic jam on the right there. The other pretty solid uses would be for law enforcement, things like Amber Alerts or stolen vehicles. You're going to be able to utilize the network of cameras all over the city to maybe keep tabs on the vehicle that's cruising around. I've been able to take part in cases involving like heavy equipment theft, and being able to tune into camera networks like this, if somebody's moving, say, like a flatbed with a giant piece of construction equipment on the back, is pretty useful. You'll be able to keep tabs on which direction things are moving. I found that stuff useful enough. I actually set up a small GitHub list in South Carolina. I think I'm up to about 400 or 500 different camera locations. I was able to pull that, and with some of these listings, you can even get like the GPS coordinates off of the back end if you pull like the JSON view on these sites. So started aggregating some of DC and a little bit of Georgia as well. All right, so what can we do to make it more challenging for people against using our own data against us? The internet itself is basically just a personal risk-based decision. How much information do you want to give up to access to certain services? This Join Honey website has been heavily advertised recently, and it's a coupon aggregator. You join the program, give them permission to kind of see where you're shopping, and it does that along the other 600 plus million people that are doing it. And you have access to coupon codes when you go to check out on the website. Hey, you're shopping at Overstock, here's a 10 off 100 coupon. But if you go into those privacy terms, you can tell that they're just tracking everything under the sun with your web traffic. So that's a decision, whether or not you're going to give up that information to have the benefit of those coupon codes. You want to definitely be aware of that. The items that are already on the internet, the opt-out policy that's in place on a lot of the people search sites. This document, Micah's coworker put together. It's a really handy one that hits a lot of the major people search sites. Some of those sites are pretty easy to opt out of, and you can just go to a link, find your entry and drop it. Other ones not so much, but they kind of give you the listing of which ones are easy, which ones are difficult. And they've done some work to kind of keep this updated, because people search sites, they change, they shift, they rebrand, so it's not an easy thing to do, but using a resource like this will definitely help you play the game of keeping your information off of the easy targets out there. Educating others. Your own privacy practices may not necessarily be the same as your family and friends. If I'm going to go and have a beer with Micah and he's going to be tagging it on Untapped or Foursquare that hey, I'm having a beer with Beowulf, just let people know. I value my privacy. Please don't put this stuff out while we're doing that kind of stuff. Because again, your intentions and practices may not necessarily be that of your friends and family. So their decisions on risk and having fun with social media and stuff, it doesn't impact you, similar to the ghost profile stuff. And then your kids. I've got a son, and he uses a few of my accounts through like gaming sites and stuff, so I have to keep tabs on that. I don't need anything in my information security realm bubbling over to the gaming realm, so we try to isolate the usernames and stuff like that, and definitely keep tabs on the kids too. Persistence is key when it comes to educating your family. Obviously, we're going through a lot with the Facebook and Cambridge Analytica stuff, and a lot of people are just like, why aren't they more informative to this stuff? They say that they're slimy and sneaky and all this stuff, but this one is an article from 2015 saying, hey, these quizzes are not good for your privacy, don't use them. There was another one from 2 years ago, stop doing quizzes on Facebook if you have any value on privacy. And then 4 days ago, data collected by QuizApp and private, included your private messages. It's just the awareness. It's not a one and done thing, so you may have to tell your family members a bunch of times. So that kind of stuff is definitely a persistence pays off type of thing. We mentioned this one before, but consider not tying your accounts together. That by far is one of the easiest ways to go and start branching and hosting a profile on somebody if they've got linked accounts. We've got ways to kind of pivot off of those. But when you put them all in one spot, it definitely makes it easier to get started. When it comes to social media profiles, it definitely has come into play. In private investigation, I've got people that will come in with cyber stalking and harassment type cases, and you will find multiple profiles sometimes for people in those situations. When it comes to things like Facebook, I've been able to do a lot of research on the Facebook ID number to the point where I can almost go back and timestamp it based on the Facebook ID number alone. So in a case where you've got, say, 5 profiles for the same person, you can go back and find the oldest one and, kind of authenticate off of that one. I've also seen other scenarios where, say people are using Facebook for gang affiliations or something more underhanded. They'll have multiple profiles, and they may be connected to their family and everything on one of them, and all of their friends and everything. Basically doing as much back-end research as we can to validate, via the ID numbers or going through and actually looking at the timeline and stuff is kind of the best way I've seen to do that. That's all the crowd we're going to have for today. Anybody got any questions?